Hello, everyone. Welcome to our next set of Atlassian Jaipur chapter community event of March 2022. My name is Siddharth Pareek. I am the community lead for this Jaipur chapter. A brief and quick intro about me. I'm part of the DevOps Center of Excellence for the NACRES group, where I'm leading part of our central DevOps practices. I have recently co-authored a white paper on digital skills. Last year, I co-authored a book on site reliability engineering. I'm part of other community initiatives, like I'm the Global Ambassador for DevOps Institute. I'm board of expert panel for Cloud Creation Council. Recently, I was elected as the governing board for an open source microservices project. That is in brief and short about me. Today, we have three speakers for the event. One as a speaker, two as the panel members. So what we'll do is we'll start with our first member of the event, the first agenda of the event, and I'll quickly ask Vikas Sinha to briefly introduce himself and definitely what he is going to talk about. So
thank you very much, Siddharth. And right on onset, uh, impeccable credentials that you put up there. I would be happy if I have 50% of those. But I have around 16 years of industry experience. I started my career in the web development side, and then slowly I moved into and spent some time into testing and quality related responsibilities. And after that, I slowly started moving into the client facing positions, including the business owner, the product management. And right now I'm working as a business owner for a solution that we have developed for detecting potential fraud scenarios. And it's a multi-million dollar project and running inside multiple countries at the same time. Some of the giant tech companies are our client, and so we are trying to solve the exact problems that they are having. It's not like we have any generalized solution. Each solution is designed for the specific needs, and in my capacity I'm working with each of those guys, each of those technical companies, and trying to understand what their pain points are, how we can fix those. Each of the project it completes its life cycle within 45 to 60 days, and from the development to deployment, the entire project itself runs into kind of an agile model. And we are using a lot of tools. We are still into learning phase, but we are trying to gain maturity as much as we can. And from what we have learned in our journey, I thought this would be a good opportunity to share the same experience with all of you. And that's my topic for the day. So with that, I'm sharing my screen. I hope you guys are able to see this. And the topic of my presentation today is the migration journey from monolithic to microservices and how Atlassian and the tools have helped us. So to start with, the product that I've been mentioning, this is kind of a monolithic architecture. It was, and it was developed as a whole end-to-end solution which could fit, and fulfill a lot of things. So it was like an infrastructural thing. The whole platform developed into one. But when we started moving into the next steps, we found that there are a lot of things where we can gain modularity, because the first thing that will help us is that for anything, we don't have to rewrite everything from scratch, and we don't have to do end-to-end thing one more time. Plus, it will also help us deliver faster. Okay, so that is how we entered into journey of monolithic to microservices. The agile came into the picture, the scrum came into the picture. There are a lot of overlapping terms we use. Some of them have tried to cover in my presentation. So just starting with this strip from Gilbert, it says we are moving to an agile methodology for software development. And this guy, he says, I don't know all about the details, but I think one of has to be designated as Scrum Bag. Okay, so this often happens in the organizations when they are moving into the agile, where they're adopting the Scrum model. The first point for them is to assign a Scrum master. Sometimes this journey even takes precedence in assigning a Scrum master or a coach, because even before understanding the proper needs, how you can transform, we just kind of push into the system. And that is where we are starting our journey from monolithic to microservices. And overall, it's not just a step where you one day you woke up and decided that I'm done with monolithic, I'm not going to do it anymore, and I'll convert everything into microservices. This is a journey which has to be properly designed, which has to be properly implemented, which has to be properly communicated to the entire team members, because your workforce is very diverse. Okay, they are coming from different technologies, and when you have people in your team who are associated with the industry for longer than 12, 15, 16 hours, and they have been working with a specific methodology, like, let's say, for example, waterfall. They know how it works, they are very good with it, and that is where the shift in attitude is very important. With that, let me come back to the presentation. The monoliths are everywhere, as we say, that in our industry. I think the start of this was some kind of the banking industry and the telecom industry. They were in the pioneer in developing the operating environment, which worked as an the whole infrastructure thing, and it was running end to end. There was no modularity in the application. But the problem was that if you don't do it, if you don't modularize, even for a smaller change, the entire product has to come down. You have to rewrite, you have to retest, and then put it back again in the system, in the live environment. Even though monolithic environment has its own benefits as well, because no, the throughput of the application will slightly better than the microservices environment. Okay, but what happens with the industries when they start with the monolithic planning? The first thing in the shifting of the paradigm, the one thing that comes in is, and which is the driving force, is kind of budgeting thing. Okay, because sometimes it is very difficult to for even for the top management to understand that why we are moving from a very established pattern to another one and how it is going to help you, right? So the project centric budgeting, it often brings you to a situation where you're separating a service from running it is confusing, right? You are going to build it, you are going to run it, you are going to maintain it. Until now, it was all happening together. Now you're trying to modularize it. And that is where, if the entire budgeting is project centric, it defeats the rapid cycle of learning, because the team also needs time to understand what is going on, how we are going to adopt into this new environment, and how we are going to work with the real production data, right? And the second point is the heterogeneous services. So few organization, as I said, that somebody will decide that, okay, now we are done with monolithic, we are going to move into microservices, and then everything will be pushed like a steam engine, that no, you just start working on it. And down the line, maybe 1 quarter, 2 quarter, 3 quarter down the line, somebody will come and say, oh, no, I think this is very difficult to convert this into microservices. So let's keep a hybrid model where some of the things are running in the monolithic environment and some are migrated to microservices. So that kind of heterogeneous environment is very difficult to maintain, because you start your journey into migrating into microservices, but you end up living in both involved at the same time. The mix of architecture and the tools that you are going to work in your monolithic and your microservice environment, it is going to be add a lot of complexity into your day-to-day operations. Okay. So the journey continues, and now we are talking about how the microservices suite are going to help. See, the first and foremost thing is the replaceability. Okay, it is easier to identify that which are the modules that you can build faster, which are the modules that have none to low risk, and then you can start working with those, make a gradual progress. You put them into modular or containers, and then put them into the deployment. And at the same time, it is very easy to renew the services. Okay, so one service is already developed and it is running in the production environment. It is very easy that you write a newer version of it and replace the older one without any downtime, right? That's the objective that we want to gain with the microservices. And overall, the infrastructure point of view, it gives you a very simplified development and simplified operations. Okay, so the whole team is not bugged with, if I'm going to touch this module, how is it going to work with the integration module? uh, it may be a very vague example, but let me put it this way. For example, if you log into Google today, it doesn't matter whether you are a user of Google Pay or not. Okay, the Google Pay will be invoked only when you reach there, only when we are trying to make a payment. If you are in a monolithic environment, the moment you are logged in, all the services have to be activated for you, because they never know that what you are going to use. But with the microservices, the services will come on time when they are needed. They are not loaded in the system. And that is where the modularity brings the simplified operations for the teams. Okay, technology can be chosen based on the problem which we are trying to solve. So if there is a particular module which is better suited in some other environment, you can carefully choose that, okay, this is what I'm going to do. And I'm making a decision that this will be running into this environment, that will be running into that environment. But overall, the system will be working seamlessly. And we don't have to worry about the infrastructure point of view. So these are the two things where the microservices are going to be very useful. In our journey also, we had this same discussion that we want to work on modular approach of replacing the existing operations with the modular operations. Plus, we want to have very simplified development model, very simplified operations model. One module should not be interfering the territory of the other, and it has to be a seamless model of the journey has to be very smooth. When you are entering into the system and you are exiting from the system, it doesn't matter whether you are working on monoliths or microservices, but there should be no disconnect. Okay, and the moment we decide that the system has to be easy enough for migration, for maintenance, and for deployment, that is your success story. That is your data point. Because until now, for deploying a monolith product, you will see that sometimes it will take 1 or 2 days to deploy the whole system. Okay, but with the case of microservices, we wanted to avoid that. We wanted to make it very easy. We wanted to make it as quick as possible, so that within a few clicks of the button, and so that the entire CI/CD pipeline is maintained. The moment we want to shift from one version to another, it's seamless. So we are talking about the balancing act here. What do we need to do, and how the Atlassian tools have helped us? Which are the primary tools that can be helpful in this journey? As I said, that before we start, if we have identified that which are the tools that we are going to use, which are the tools which are going to be helpful in this journey, and Atlassian being a market leader in all these kind of tools, we decided to go ahead with Atlassian. The first problem was, we identify the product, we identify the business need, and we involve the teams with development and operation responsibilities. So here we took the help of Jira. We efficiently showcase the backlog for each planned microservices, the technical depth, and the epic and the sprint planning. So what we are doing is that we are breaking it down to a multiple levels. We are identifying the product, and for each product, what is the specific business need, and how we are converting them into our epics and sprints, right? It becomes very easy to identify the business needs if you're working with a system like that, where you can modularize all the operations step by step. And it makes it far more easier to accommodate the inputs from the ops. Okay, plus the deployment team, because the deployment team is the one that is working in partnership with the client, And now what is happening is the client is asking for some question, maybe as a product that is not a very high point for you, you don't want to accommodate it as of now, but it's a client requirement, so it has to be accommodated. So whatever inputs we are getting from operations, it becomes very easy to put that into the system. The second step is the empower teams to tear down the piece of monolith. So we are breaking down them into modular repositories. So until now, you had a whole bunch of code, whole bunch of modules working together, and it was very difficult to maintain the entire code base because you never know what is going to break because of what change. What is happening now? We are introducing the bit bucket, and for each smaller product that we have identified in the whole bunch of the monolithic application, we will maintain multiple branches of repositories, and each will be having individual identity but integrated. So we know the integration point. So this is the repository. When it is executed, when the final build is released, it is going to be integrated with this particular module. So that individual identity has to be maintained in the repositories, but it also has to be integrated. And the association between Jira and Bitbucket helps maintain this ascendancy and the governance. Okay, so we know that what changes coming from which Jira story is going to be helpful in for which Bitbucket repository. Now, finally, things are modularized, our components are getting developed, and now is the time to keep a track whether what is working and what is not working, right? So we have a tool called status page, which can provide the health check notifications as well as the service failures, okay? Because it is very important to keep everybody informed that what is working right now, and if the service is failing for some reason, and if it is the health checks are failing, you have to kind of quickly work on it. You have to see that what is the reason it has failed, why the health checks are failing, and then you can act on it. So the status page, what it does, each microservices is treated as a component, and you can monitor each of the component individually. If at any point of time you are going to see that this is failing, this is producing some error notifications, that's the you can take a calculated decision whether you are going to go back to your previous published version of the microservices, or you are going to fix it, or what. So the approach that we are taking is that from the development and from the integration point of view, we are taking Jira. Everything is converted into epics, sprints, and now Bitbucket is going to maintain your individual multi repositories at branch level. Each microservice will have their own branch, but they will be in an integrated environment. And now the status page is going to check each component service one by one, and it will make sure that you are getting the timely notifications of what is working versus what is not working. Okay, so this is how it has worked. Now, this is a very interesting thing, and we have discussed it a lot. Okay, and so let me start by saying this. Whenever we start discussion about Agile and Scrum, there's one point of discussion that's a very interesting question that I usually ask with one my friends, my colleagues. What do you think what Agile is? Okay. And many a times the answer will be that it's a kind of technique which you can use to make your development and deployments faster. But to me, Agile is not a technique. Agile is an attitude. Okay. And that is the point where we are coming to, that what is the difference between doing Agile and being Agile, right? Because there is a difference. You can adopt Agile methodology, but adopting it and changing the mindset into being Agile are two completely different things. When we are doing Agile, the mindset is focused on implementing the Agile process in some way. So you start by this, that, okay, this is how we have been doing. How can we convert into Agile? Which is okay, right? But it will not always work, because people tend to start using the tools and name the process in a hurry. We use the same term jokingly with some of my friends in other companies as well, that some of them will use that. For example, if they are working in XYZ company, that they will say that we are working on the XYZ model of Agile. So what is actually happening is they have converted the agile process into what suits them, right? So they have adopted agile, they named it, they started using the tools, but they are not fully agile yet. But when you are being agile, you will follow these processes, you will start using the tools, you will name the process agile, but it also applies the agile mindset, because then your team starts thinking that what is it that you can actually convert to agile model. How do you break down the problems into multiple iterations, multiple modules, and how you can start using them, how can you start developing them. It's about the mindset, right? when you start you when you look at the problem, the first thing that comes into your mind is that, okay, this is how we are going to do this first, then this second, then this third, and at the end of 2 or 3 sprints, this is how it's going to look like, right? When we are in scope of being agile, we focus on what to do to be agile. We are not just adopting a name, we are not just adopting a tool, but we are actually changing the attitude, we are actually changing the mindset. And so being agile requires a lot more efforts. It will take a lot of time. If there some of the organization who have been working on the waterfall model or the monolithic architecture for a very long time, and this is the first time they are coming into and adopting to be agile, they are going to start these tools for the very first time. It will take time, and it's okay, because the objective is for each sprint, the objective is to give you the MVP, the minimum viable product. Okay, if we are going to work with the same mindset that end to end every functionality has to be working, it will be difficult to start with. But if you have the right tools, as I said, they will help you to be focused on your journey. It will make the journey manageable. You will start doing that what is needed to be agile. And in our case, we have seen that the Atlassian tools that we have discussed were the real differentiator. Okay, they also infused an idea into the team that how it is going to uh, working. Okay, so at the end, what we are going to say is that adopt early and evolve fast. Okay, so those were my slides for the day. I think I completed it on time. Sid?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Vikas. There are a few questions on the chat for yourself. And just a
Mhm.
quick reminder, uh, our panel member Vikas will be educating, and the top three questions asked will be rewarded reward coupons worth $10. So at the end of the event, you will be you will be informed whether your questions have been selected as the top three questions. So please asking the question. Don't stop asking the questions. The top three questions will be rewarded worth $10. So because we have two questions at the moment, and before we move it, the first question is from Manoj. The question is, does Jira Align help in effectively monitoring those segregated services from monolithic architecture to microservices as different projects?
It actually does, and it no, it depends how you are adopting the tool, how you are adopting the Jira, because no, what you are going to do is not only you are going to identify the modules in your microservices architecture when you are coming to the monolithic, but it also tells you that how you can segregate into them individual identity. It's about giving the individual identity to each of the module that you are going to convert into. And each of these projects, when they are in running into individual capacity, it becomes very easier for you to understand that what are your current objectives, what are your market priorities, what are your business priorities, and what are your client priorities. So that's where Jira is going to help you. Okay, it will give you a very good idea that what. See, I have seen that some of the organization even using the quota system, right? So for each sprint, when we are designing into Jira, we will make sure that the 30% of what we are taking into consideration is coming from the business, 30% is what coming into from the field, and maybe 30-40% are the combination of bugs and your future readiness. So it does, yes.
Okay, thank you. The next question is from Ditain. So the question is there any relation or dependencies between microservices and Agile?
Uh, there is no direct correlation. I don't think it would be good to maintain that there is a relation, but they are complementing ideas. Okay, if you're working in a microservices, agile could be the best suited model to run the product. Okay, to run the development. There is no direct correlation. It's just that what we are going to give you a much better handle at what you are going to achieve. Okay, so there is no direct correlation, but they are complementing each other.
Okay, one last question, and then you can take it. During the panel discussion that we'll be having. The question is from Priyanka. Are there any technical challenges as well that you have come across apart from mindset and cost when moving from monolithic to microservices architecture?
N number of technical challenges. Okay, there are so many. Okay, at some points we were also discussing that we have to completely leave the technology that I've been working on and move into some new technology, some new ID, some new environment to work on. And what we have seen that, see, some of the products which have been running in the industry for a very long time, 10 year, 15 year, 20 year, it is very difficult for them to move into microservices model. Okay, so what companies sometimes do, that the newer module that they are developing, they try to keep it separate from the monolith arc, and they will be having a different life cycle for what is running as a monolith, and a different cycle for what is running into microservices. But then again comes back to the one of the slide that we discussed, that it's just going to add another complexity. Okay, because now you're going to maintain two different tools, two different architectures. Now, from the technical challenges point of view, there have been technical challenges. For example, if you are trying to move to cloud, for some of the technology that we have previously worked with, it is very difficult to bring that to the cloud. Okay, so it will depend, what kind of application you are working on. For some, it could be far more easy, but for us, it was very difficult. And we had to be honest, we had to let go some of the functionality because we wanted to move fast. And then we thought that we will be coming back to it later once we are at that stage. So yeah, technical challenges will be there, and that's where your architecture team is going to help you.
All right, thank you so much, Vikas. We'll move on to our next agenda. And in meantime, Vikas, please, take up all the questions that comes up and let us know who are the top 3 questions for the day.
Yeah.
All right, so let's move on to our next set of discussions. We have Yogesh and Priyanka with us, so let me welcome them. Hello, Yogesh. Hi, Priyanka. I hope you can hear us.
Hi. Yes, we can.
Yogesh, I hope the same for you. Right. So our next agenda is what are the pitfalls of using this Atlassian tool set? And for this, we have our 2 panel members, Yogesh and Priyanka. So before we go on to the next set of our agenda, why don't you introduce yourself? Let's start with you, Priyanka, first.
Okay. So I have over 10 years of industry experience. I started and I continue to be in the testing domain, and I slowly made a transition into project management. I am currently working with Incido as senior technical lead, where I manage the projects end to end. And interestingly, I also manage the project management related suites for Jira, Confluence, Zephyr, and all the related plugins. So I thought it was a good opportunity to add on from my experience and hear from others' experience based on that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yogesh, over to you.
Sorry, I missed it somehow because I got disconnected. Could you please share with the context what's going on right now?
So just a quick introduction about yourself, Yogesh, before we...
Okay, sure. Hello, everyone. I'm Yogesh. I'm into IT for more than 16 years, practicing Agile and Jira for last more than a decade, and now working as a trainer, coach, and consultant in Agile and Jira. And Jira is helping a lot in my Agile journey, helping the teams to get quickly into Agile ways of working. And Jira is one of the most popular and adopted tool in Jira Agile space. So enjoying Jira and Agile together.
Thank you. So my first question to both of you is, and we may start with Priyanka, let's say, is can you walk us through about your Atlassian adoption journey within your organization? Maybe a short brief about it.
Okay, so I've been working on Jira for almost 7 to 8 years now. But to current adoption, it is a very interesting implementation. We are working for a pharma client, and um, I am sure some of you know about it, that it's a GXP validated system, right? So in traditional environments, you have uh, the roles like business owner, IT reviewer, system compliance manager. But in a non-validated environments, like I worked for finance and e-commerce domains earlier, these roles are like very loosely referred to. I mean, a simple developer or a dev lead could also be a business owner or IT reviewer, but that's not the case in the pharma environments. These roles are very much segregated. They have their own set of responsibilities, and they have their own set of approvals to say. So and they have their own set of working, their own SOPs to follow, um, that are as per defined by the industry as well as the company, that the client that we work for. Now Jira, as I know, was a standard where there were specific issue types, and there were specific workflows that were there. But when we started working for this client, and they had this interest into moving all of their paper-based work from the creation of the test scripts or the PQ scripts, their the IQ OQ to say, the RTMs to say, to test plan, everything, like everything involved in terms of documentation, they wanted to move from their paper-based method to Jira and Confluence, and also take advantage of the related plugins that are supported. um, the first challenge was to have that kind of heavy customizations done. So at this point, I would say we have very heavy configurations done in the system. We have a lot of scripts that are there that relate to not only integrating just Jira and Confluence, but to Zephyr and all other plugins like document download and e-signatures and all of that. So that makes our implementation pretty complex to handle at this time. So one of the basic challenge when we thought of adopting this architecture was the mindset, like Vikas just talked about already. The users in the system were not at all technical. So they were all very much used to the paper-based method. Especially, I would say the system compliance managers, they don't belong to that technical background, or they have a lesser understanding of the technicalities of the system. So having them onboarded and agree to the new set of processes to tools was itself a journey for us. It took us almost 2 years to just make them realize the importance of the system and the efforts that it was saving for us. Now coming over to the pitfalls, that I would say was obviously
I'll come to you.
oh,
Sorry,
sure.
I'll come to you. I'll come to you. Before that, you have been also an experienced and seasoned user for this Atlassian tools. What has been your challenges, which you would like to call us, not the solutions, but the key challenges that you think everyone faces at some point of time? Yogesh? You're on mute, Yogesh. We can't hear you.
Yes, sir. So if you talk about the challenges, there are certain kind of challenges which are common to most of the teams and the people. The first and foremost challenge which I used to face being an Jira admin, people want to do each and everything in Jira, whether it's possible or not, without doing or understanding how to make it happen in Jira. They want everything. And then convincing those people there are certain limitations around Jira, We cannot do everything in Jira. There are certain ways of doing things and there are certain alternate to get it done. So making the people understand the limitations of Jira was a quite challenging effort being a Jira system admin. Siddharth cannot hear you.
Sorry. Given your experience as a coach in Agile and Scrum way of working, what is one thing that will surely not work for people who wish to adopt Atlassian tool suite? What is their expectation which will not met with Atlassian suite, which they think could be met with?
Wait. Okay, quite a distraction at my end.
So,
my bad. Okay.
So for example, what I think is many think that if Atlassian tool suite, let's say Jira or Confluence comes up, they will remove all the hurdles of removing all the carbon footprints. Let's say people using Word document, Excels, all that will automatically happen. But that is actually not the case. You need to change your way of working. You need to change the culture of, let's say, the sort of communication that happens, and before moving to, let's say, Jira and Confluence. So have you seen that, let's say, that people are using Jira and Confluence or many other tools, but they're using other set of tools, which is sort of overrides with what Atlassian is already doing. So
yeah.
In short, using too many tools rather than, clubbing with one or two.
Absolutely. And when it comes to getting adopted to using Jira, people are used to doing the same things using different tools like Excel and email. These are the two most common and heavy competitor of Jira, I would say, because when we have been using Excel sheets for maintaining data, we don't want to put it in Jira. Though there are certain ways of, let's say you can attach the Jira sheet, but still you need to get rid of your Excel sheet, because if you don't put data in your Jira or your Confluence, it would not make any sense. Then the second thing is we have user story in Jira. There are certain communication going on. There are certain updates on that user story. But instead of putting all those conversations in Jira, people try to use email threads. Then there are a lot of different threads of that same communication, as well as there is no common source of input. People are doing whatever they know so far, they are doing in that way. So these two things in terms of documenting and using Jira, because when you talk about adopting Jira, you need to make sure whatever updates you do have, whatever documentations you do have, they all should be available in Jira. And people try to use other existing or traditional ways of working like Excel and email. These are the top most competitors of Jira tool.
Priyanka, coming to you, your organization is moving now from Jira Atlassian version 2 to Atlassian version 3. And there have been a lot of successes and failures while adopting this Atlassian tool suite of yours. What do you think doesn't work by automatically once you start using this Atlassian tool suites in the organization? What has not worked for you? What problems it has not solved for you, which you think should have been solved by the Atlassian tool suite?
Okay, one of the most common problem that I face, and I wish it was better, is the reporting. So like Yogesh briefly touched upon it, people try to replace the Excel based methodology or the reporting that we currently fetch out of numerous other tools. They want all of those capability in Jira. One of the more, I will just give you a very small example. The Jira, the Zephyr plugin where we execute our test cases, correct? Now, having the reporting fetched out of it, there are only few macros that provide us, that are on the dashboard, that provides us the capability to fetch the results for the Zephyr test case execution. Zephyr doesn't provide a lot of APIs to work with. And I always want to give my stakeholders the reports through Confluence. The total count of, maybe test cases executed, or their statuses in different cycles, combining all of them in Confluence. I mean, today I'm not able to do it, and I saw there are some of the open tickets with Jira already for that, where users are facing the same problem. So reporting is one of the most biggest pain point, I would say, that I wished was simpler when you have a lot of different tools integrated with Jira.
So what advice probably you will have for our audience, that what should they not expect from Atlassian tool suite but just by onboarding it within the organization?
It's very important to first of all understand the technicalities of the tool. We work with a lot of business partners, owners, SVPs, who come to us with a lot of requests where we have already customized our system to a big limit. There are a lot of scripts running that has already slowed down our system. We'll keep on facing a lot of performance issues, and we keep on raising Atlassian tickets. But having the knowledge of how things work, we are trying to, at this moment, the partners are completely trying to replace Word with Confluence. They want each and every feature that Word has into Confluence. We have established it to a limit, I would say, and we've been pretty successful with that. But having all the tools completely replaced is not possible, is what I would say. And even if you try to do, there are a lot of challenges, and that's where cost comes into the picture, the budget comes into the picture. It's very difficult to explain to the customers, to the stakeholders, why this thing is very simple to do in Word, but to implement it in Confluence, so and so dollars of the project needs to be created. So I think that's the biggest challenge.
What is your experience says in this case, Yogesh? What should people not do by just having the Atlassian tool suite?
So Priyanka has mentioned it clearly, and this is the case for most of the stakeholders, because whenever they come to Jira, they come to know, okay, we have Jira available in the organization. They feel happy about it. But when it comes to implementation, when we talk about their expectations, they want each and everything available in Jira only. As I mentioned earlier, there are certain limitations of each tool, and they need to understand. For an example, when it comes to reporting, and specifically more about time log, they want average of each and individual person who has worked on how many stories, how many hours. So this is the real pain of the teams to understand why we need that data. And stakeholders are needed for their reporting, their budgeting, their costing, their billing as well. But that is not possible in Jira. We can have certain plugins, but that plugin is also not providing the exact kind of data they need. So they need to understand. And again, when they have some specific need which cannot be fulfilled in terms of reporting with Jira, then we give them a dump export in Excel and ask them to put some queries or filters to get that data. So that is the real pain when it comes to reporting.
All right. One of the things Vikas talked about in the session earlier is about doing Agile and being Agile. And Yogesh, what you think is, how would you probably differentiate, if you could, of when people say we are using Atlassian, how would you differentiate whether they're doing Agile or whether they're being Agile? Is there any way of differentiating?
Yes. So when you talk about, let me put it in my understanding as well, because when we say being Agile or doing Agile, there are certain ways of getting into each of those things. But when we talk about Atlassian tools, using Atlassian tools, so that is a separate story. So let's talk about being Agile or doing Agile. So when you are doing some aspect or some ceremonies, you are using Jira for capturing your user stories, estimating in the story points, that's all about adopting and doing Agile. However, we miss the basic objective what we want to achieve, how we can provide early value to our customer, how we can provide justification to our efforts, how we can provide business edge to our customers. So that is something when teams start understanding what are they doing, why are they doing, and how they need to do to achieve that expectation of the customer. So that is your being agile, where we are doing certain things to get maximum value out of the effort which team is putting together. It's not just we are doing sprint, we are completing some user story in every sprint, we are maybe delivering at the end of each iteration, but are we delivering the right thing in a right way? So that is your being agile.
Thank you. What is your take on this, Priyanka?
Okay, so yeah, so Siddharth, I'll be very honest here. I interview a lot of candidates also, and interestingly, each and everyone has told me that I know agile and I do agile. And when I ask them, the maximum they've done agile is that they create user stories in Jira and they have the daily stand-up meetings that they do. But regarding the, I take agile as a way of thinking, as a process that can be implemented that would ease everyone's life, right? So the problem is agile is a very fancy word that looks fine, as a at an high level, but when it comes to on ground, there are certain processes that you need to establish and you have to follow them, that I don't see on ground happening. It might not be intentional, I would say, but with our high paced environment and a lot of workload that everybody has, I'll give you an example, a simple example. We say that we have to track our sprint burn down charts, we have to track the velocity charts. What if the developers are not even logging their hours? What if the business analysts are not even logging their story points, right? So, and what if people are simply saying that we don't even have time for the pre-planning meeting? So these are the biggest challenges, or you can say that, prohibit us from actually being agile, because the set of processes are established, but everybody either forgets them down the line or completely not follow it.
Okay, thank you.
Just to add,
Yeah.
there might be different versions of agile as well, because I have my own version, Priyanka will have her version, and Vikas will come with his version. So there are certain different versions when we talk about doing agile.
All right. Maybe one last thing that you want to share with the audience in regard to this theme of the pitfalls of using the Atlassian tool suite, Yogesh.
First thing which I would suggest all the people who are using Jira is start using it. Don't use it just for showing it. When we say start using it, all at any given point of time, your tool should be updated so that we can get the real-time data, which can be utilized for every kind of reporting. So that is the one thing which I would like to, and I do recommend to all of the people whom I coach, please make sure whatever update you do have, it should be available in your tools, so that there should be no my version, your version, or her version of story. So this is one recommendation for me. Keep all your tools updated at any given point of time. If I have any decision, information, it should be available in your tools, and that helps a lot.
All right, thank you. Priyanka, your last words of people who are trying to adopt this Atlassian tool suite, what they should not do.
What they should not do is be hesitant to learning. Jira and its suite, all the suite that is provided, it's very, very powerful in my opinion. I don't see, apart from a few pitfalls that I talk about, I don't see there is anything that Jira cannot do, or it cannot replace certain tools to a certain limit. And when you are investing in so heavily in this suite, I would say take complete advantage of these tools. Be open to learning. I know it might take a learning curve sometimes because there are a lot of tools. I'm talking about some advanced also, like timesheets, roadmap. You can maintain everything over here, just like any project management tool. You can take advantage of all those capabilities. But the most important thing is you should be open to learning how it works. If you know how it works, you can take advantage of the tool, and you can actually save a lot of time, in my personal experience. But if you're not ready to learning, this tool is not for you.
All right. What we do now is we'll ask our participants if they have any questions and they want to talk to our speakers for the day, Priyanka, Vikas, and Yogesh. Please raise your hands and we will unmute you and you can ask them directly. You can have word with them directly. So anyone who wants to talk to any of our speakers, please raise your hands and ask your questions, if any.
Yeah, and while we wait for the questions, I just want to echo what Yogesh and Priyanka has said, that any tool will be as good as you are going to use it. Okay. I've seen folks that they will come back and say, oh, I don't even know that Jira could do it. You don't know because you are not doing it. Okay. It's not the problem of the tool. And as it was mentioned in the earlier discussion as well, that the Excels are and the emails are the competitors of Jira. Right. And there was a comment on this chat also that people are still doing private conversations and referring to that. So that defeats the whole purpose of going agile. If you're making a personal conversation, you're not bringing onto the tools, you're not bringing into the discussions, it's not going to help you, right? That's where you're cutting down the feedback. So very well said, guys. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions, Priyanka, that you want to take up in from the chat? The first, there is a question from Nityanshu saying, do you also use Bamboo in your organization? If you do, then how does it help?
No, I don't have any experience. I've not used it till now. Sorry.
All right, no worries. I know you're not part of the panel, but because if you want to actually share one piece of advice for people who are trying to adopt this Atlassian tool, what they should not do, what they should avoid doing.
If I have to tell them in your adoption journey what you should not do, the one thing that I'll definitely echo, that stop doing that private email conversations. Okay, bring your questions to these stand-ups, talk to the team, get the feedback. Don't be afraid of the feedback, because I've seen people, very good developers, they're afraid of the feedback. They think that they will ask a question, people will think that, no, I don't, this guy doesn't even know what he's talking about. Don't be afraid of the feedback. You take the feedback, you give the feedback. That's the only way that will be helpful. And when you discuss, keep it open for everybody.
All right, thank you. With this, we are on the stage of winding up the event. Anyone has any last words, Vikas, about this event? And Priyanka and Yogesh, you come down for the very first time.
So I'm absolutely thrilled and honored to be here. It's a great experience to learn from the fellow members, and I'm looking forward to more and more sessions. There are certainly few things which I learned, and those will be my takeaways from the session. So thank you, Atlassian Jaipur chapter and Siddharth, you for organizing this. Thank you, Priyanka, Yogesh. And there are some great questions on the chat. So thank you, guys. Thanks a lot.
Okay, Priyanka, any last?
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I would say the same. Vikas presented a very interactive session, and there were few very good points that were raised by Yogesh and Vikas. It was a very good learning experience for me. I'm going to take away few of the points from here, and I would look forward to more sessions. So thank you for having me here.
Thank you, Yogesh.
Yeah. First of all, I would like to thank every individual who is present in the session and Atlassian Jaipur, Siddharth, Vikas, and Priyanka for giving this learning opportunity to all of us. Because when we talk about learning, it should not stop and it comes together. When we interact with each other, we get multiple perspective around the same thing. That is the real learning. And at end, I would like to share my perspective around Jira and Atlassian tool suite is as well. Jira is highly customizable, can be utilized in any kind of project, from support to AI, as well as if you start using it, you will start feeling the wonders of a Jira, and it is impactful, especially when you want to get into Agile with your distributed team. That is a wonder. Thank you.
All right, with this, thank you so much, everyone. And I hope you benefited from this. If you want to be a speaker, a panel member, or if you want to contribute to this community, which is great to hear, please reach out to me. I've shared my email address for your reference. And with this, thank you, everyone, Priyanka, Yogesh, and Vikas for this session. And look forward for more such from you people going forward. With this, thank you, everyone. Cheers.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you, everyone. Thank you, Siddharth.
Thanks, everyone.